In this video, I'm going to talk about why low fuel motorsport and Automobilista 2 support go together so well, and why Automobilista 2 is probably actually the perfect simulator for low fuel motorsport. Fasten your seatbelts, click that subscribe button, click the like button, cry yourself to sleep. On with the video. So, if you've been a fan of low fuel motorsports over the last few years, which I have, you'll have noticed that low fuel motorsports was really popular with Assetto Corsa Competizione, and that's largely because ACC had quite a large fan base behind it, quite a lot of people that really wanted to do serious racing or organised racing, but no way for those people to be able to get races. And so with low fuel motorsport came along, it gave a nice platform to give a somewhat iRacing structured alternative to semi-jumping serious racing. Crucially, with ACC, low fuel motorsport was limited to just having GT3 cars and the very simple and limited content that is in Assetto Corsa Competizione. The reason why that's important is because you'll have noticed more recently low fuel motorsport added support to rFactor 2, which was a massive flop, and then Assetto Corsa 1, which wasn't a total flop but wasn't particularly successful. And the reason why AC1 and rFactor 2 weren't successful on low fuel motorsport, I believe, comes down to the simplicity and ease of access of getting into races with those simulators. So rFactor 2, they generally were running random DLCs, but even if you run the stock content in rFactor 2, it's a total pain in the arse simulator to set your wheel up with, get used to, the car setup stuff, just launching into the game. The whole thing was a bit of a pain in the arse, and you have to keep in mind that low fuel motorsport support for rFactor 2 came before rFactor 2 did the in-game built-in ranking. They also, in all their wisdom, decided to do a lot of the races with DLC packs, so people were having to buy the game and then buy some DLC, further diluting things. It didn't make any sense at all. So that complexity, massive disaster for rFactor 2. Then when it came to Assetto Corsa, again, with all the freedom that Assetto Corsa offers, with all its mods and all the stuff available to it, low fuel motorsport made it overly convoluted and complex to get into, and so they would run weird endurance races with really janky car mods. It didn't make any sense, to be honest, because there's lots of good mods for AC, but they'd also use payware mods mixed in with stuff and require you to, just to access it, you'd have to get the apps into AC, and you'd probably also need to get Content Manager, and again, you start getting into this rather convoluted process just to access the simulator, which kind of defeats the point of jumping online racing, which is the main reason why people are going to use something like low fuel motorsport. It's also the main reason why people use iRacing. It's not because the physics are the best, it's the online racing being accessible and the competition. Weirdly with AC, you could just use the stock content in that game because it's still some of the best cars ever produced, and there's a lot of stock content there and a lot of variety, but this is the big problem with low fuel motorsport, is that for whatever reason they tend to make very bad choices in terms of the content they choose to run for the series. In fairness, I don't know if they were watching my live streams and my rants, or some people in the community were. They've actually, with AC1 now, doing a lot of MX5 and reduced the complexity, which weirdly, surprisingly, has increased the user numbers on it. Who would have thought? However, what this leads us to is why I think Automobilista 2 is actually the perfect fit for low fuel motorsport. So a lot of the people that play ACC on low fuel motorsport now, I think, are kind of a bit bored of ACC. They've been driving the same GT3 cars on the same tracks in a sim that, let's face it, this is my subjective personal view, I think ACC is quite realistic in many ways, but I find it so dull to drive. The force feedback's so dull. It's just a really dull sim to play. I find it. Some people won't find that. And I think also, funnily enough, the more recent update to ACC that Kunos did actually alienated a large part of its fan base who I think memorised a robotic way of being quick, and then the update changed things, which meant that all their hard work of memorising stuff has gone out the window. So those people aren't even satisfied now. So ACC, I'm sure it still chooks along. There'll be people using it, people are fans of it, but that I think is diminishing a bit. Whereas AMS2 fits in really nicely in that I think it's a very easy package to install. It does have DLC, but it's a very easy game to get. It's very cheap initially, it's very easy to set up, and it will work on most people's computers. Also, I think AMS2 is generally just a much more forgiving simulator to drive and play in general, and I also think it's actually more dynamic and fun than ACC to just drive at a basic level. So fundamentally, you have a simple package there that's easy to buy on Steam, and then Low Fuel Motorsports have also had a lot of practice with setting things up, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, to the point that even with the beta that they've got for Automobilista 2 now, it's really quite easy to sign up to a Low Fuel Motorsport, and then you just click sign up, and then you can find the server in Automobilista 2 and get going. Automobilista 2, as I say, it does run really nicely, but it also has a whole bunch of features like safety car stuff and a whole bunch of stuff that just wasn't in ACC, and is generally just a more polished, without you having to do anything, package compared to the original Assetto Corsa. So I think it all just comes together really nicely. Then in addition to all of that, just like how ACC was, where you had a user base that were desperate for something similar-ish to iRacing, there's a load of people that have been playing Automobilista 2 for a while. There's quite a solid fan base there that are very passionate, who really would like online racing and a structured thing. And so they will, I think, move and adapt to or be attracted to Low Fuel Motorsport, just as was the case with Assetto Corsa Competizione. But yeah, so I think it really is a perfect storm. Now, we did a race in LMU with the LMP2 car in Automobilista 2, and I think it was actually really quite good, to be honest. The netcode is really accommodating in Automobilista 2. Everything pretty much ran and worked fairly seamlessly. The driving standards were a bit terrible, but not awful. It was a fun race to take part in, and was just a random pick. And obviously they're just doing their beta thing at the moment. When people develop ranks and ratings, that will help separate people out into different splits, which will generally make the racing a bit cleaner. Though, if you've played a lot of ranked services over time, iRacing or even LFM, the fact is you're always going to get bad driving. The main thing is just that people are trying not to wreck each other. So that's the most important thing. I do think, crucially, with Automobilista 2, it's a bit like Race Room in the sense that it has really nice netcode for car contacts, where the car contacts don't just ping you off the track. It's quite a big problem. It's a huge problem in iRacing. The developer's working on fixing it, hopefully next year. But even in AC1 and ACC, the cars do have that kind of rubber ping pong ball, Newton's cradle type thing going on, which you don't really get in Automobilista 2. You do get some other interesting quirks, like cars sticking together, and the netcode's not perfect in Automobilista 2, but on balance, I'd say it's less frustrating than ACC, especially. Still not as good as Race Room, but generally quite good. Also, I think when Assetto Corsa Evo comes out, ACC's dead. Like, really, even as good as ACC might be for you, I think most fans of that type of game will be like, oh, we're going to just play the newer thing, because the newer thing is always really attractive. And I think also a lot of the more sort of casual players will kind of want to go to Evo if it's got ranking built into it. So that would just be really interesting to see. But at least in the short term, I think the Automobilista 2 with LMU's a really good fit. Really have to hope, though, that the organisers at LMU do not run really stupid car track combos, which they probably will do, but you guys, you need to, if you're fans of AMS2 and you're fans of online racing, you need to really make sure that they don't pick really stupendously dumb combos and that they actually pick stuff that goes together well. Actually, another really nice feature with Automobilista 2, you don't have to own DLC to be able to join a race with cars that you don't own, so that's a huge thing for jumping online racing. It's something that rFactor 2 managed to fix eventually, but out of the box that's great as well, and again that reduces the complexity of getting into things and gets rid of that problem that you'd have if you were doing AC on Low Fuel Motorsport and you'd need to get all the different mods to just take part. So there you go, guys. I would highly recommend trying out Low Fuel Motorsport. I'd sign up to it straight away. I've been a member on and off. I play it on and off, depends on my mood and how much I'm suffering with iRacing. But sign up to Low Fuel Motorsports, and if you play Automobilista 2 and you really enjoy it, Low Fuel Motorsports will be a much better way for the most part for you to get decent racing. If you join general public lobbies, you'll find that people are generally, it seems like they're driving using a keyboard whilst very inebriated and banging the keyboard on the forehead. So yeah, Low Fuel Motorsport is probably a better way to get good races. Thanks for watching this video though. Hopefully you found it useful. Until the next one, happy tea drinking, guys. Take care and goodbye.